The top business stories live from the Sky Newsroom. US tech stocks bounce back after yesterday's turmoil. We'll have the latest from the markets. The Prime Minister orders Cabinet colleagues to ditch policies which could stand in the way of economic growth ahead of a major speech by the Chancellor tomorrow. Plus, we'll hear from two gym bosses about why a membership is for life and not, frankly, just for January. Very good afternoon on this Tuesday Business Live with me, Darren McCaffrey. Well, the Chinese startup DeepSeek has certainly put the cat among the pigeons in the AI world. Its release yesterday caused turmoil on the markets with concerns in the United States that it could undermine the $500 billion investment by OpenAI, Oracle and SoftBank in Stargate, which was announced only last week by Donald Trump and the White House. It led to the US chip manufacturer, NVIDIA, losing some $465 billion in value yesterday. That is the biggest single daily market cap loss of all time. But tech boss stocks are bouncing back this afternoon. Well, let's have a look at how the markets are looking in Europe. As you can see, actually doing pretty good today, it must be said. And the FTSE has also, if we're going to bring it up for you now, up, there you go, 0.41%. Well, let's get more on all of this with Lindsay James, who's investment strategist at Quilter Investments. A very good afternoon to you, Lindsay. And what we've seen in the United States is some of those stocks, including NVIDIA, recover a little bit today.
Yes, that's right. So we've seen NVIDIA up around 2% today. The Nasdaq's up very slightly, having fallen around 3% yesterday, but no signs of a more significant rebound at the moment. I think the next catalyst is really going to be hearing from Meta and Microsoft tomorrow in terms of potentially talking about their spending plans on AI development. They've already committed to tens of billions in this financial year and looking ahead. And I think there's now going to be question marks over whether that's justified.
Lindsay, the reason investors are angry about all of this, if you like, is in essence they feel that they've been spending a lot of money, these companies, that may not have needed to be spent.
Well, I'm not sure that's entirely fair because I think, first of all, the idea that DeepSeek's model was in fact built on $6 million is perhaps misrepresenting it a little bit. They would have spent hundreds of millions to get to that position. First of all, they had 139 people named on their research papers. They used Llama, Meta's model, as building blocks for their own work. So they built on the work and the developments that have been made elsewhere. But I think what it will do is mean investors are a lot more critical about future spending, because if this sort of model is available at a far cheaper level, then there's going to be sort of consideration about, well, do we need to spend these incremental billions when we have a product from China that is almost every bit as good?
And Lindsay, when it comes to where you think investors are going to go to fundamentally next in all of this, where is that? Because, you know, there is clearly lots of potential in China, but at the same time, this is a fight that clearly the United States will not want to give up on. If anything, they may well double down on their investments, not least of all with the support of the White House.
Well, this is it. You know, they thought they had a moat around this technology, and in fact, that has been fundamentally breached in the past 24 hours. I think it calls into question as well the idea of US exceptionalism that's seen the US stock market outperforming other areas. A lot of that has been built on the performance of these huge technology companies. And I think investors as well are going to need to think a little bit more about diversification. We've seen retail investors really moving into these stocks in recent years because they just continue to deliver. Professional investors have been warning for some time about the need for diversification and the concentration risk in US equities. But of course, performance is everything. I think now we're going to see people moving more towards value US small caps. I think they'll be looking at international markets, and I'm sure China more generally will benefit from this, looking at their equity market, even though this isn't a listed company. And I think the attention might turn as well to Europe, areas that have underperformed and look like good value, rather than piling into companies which have performed well and where the future now just looks that bit more challenging.
Well, and Lindsay, that is my final question to you fundamentally is there an upside here for the UK in this? Could we see actually, because we know the government are going to provide some money, some extra investments here at home too?
I think we're probably some way from that at the moment. We haven't seen any kind of leap forward from the UK market in this particular area. I think, however, what we will see as a result is perhaps a little bit more nationalism. Companies are a little bit reticent to be uploading their back-end systems into AI models where all that data is held abroad, whether that's in America or whether that's in China. So I think if there was an alternative that was developed here in the UK, we'd see UK companies a lot more willing to embrace that.
OK, Lindsay, really appreciate your time this afternoon. Quite uncertain, but in some ways exciting times too. Lindsay James there from Quilter Investments. Thank you. Well, bit of breaking news in the last couple of minutes. You may well have seen this just before the programme started. A company called Boom carrying out a test flight to try and see if they could break the sound barrier. Well, let's have just a listen. It sounds like they may have just done it.
There we are. XB1 is supersonic, faster than the speed of sound. We've got confirmation from the control room that she is supersonic. What a wonderful achievement. Geppetto and the whole team know what a really historic moment this is. The first civil aircraft independently constructed that has ever flown supersonic. And Geppetto is the first pilot ever to do it. It is really thrilling moment. And we can see her right now watching it. Nick, how do you feel?
Fantastic. Mike, I've been working on this program for years, not just me.
There you go. This is a prototype of a passenger jet meant to succeed Concorde, if you like, attempting and succeeding in breaking the sound barrier there. This is just above California. As I say, it is a test flight, but the idea is that we may well, at some point in the future, see the return of sound-breaking, supersonic jets back to our skies that we can zip around in, maybe between London and New York. Thomas Moore is with me in the studio. They managed to do it, Thomas.
Yes, this is it's just the size of a jet fighter now, but that is the prototype for a 64-seat commercial flight aircraft that will be able to do London to New York in 3.5 hours. Boom is targeting a ticket price of about $5,000. That compares with $20,000 for Concorde if you adjust for inflation. So they're trying to use technology to bring down the cost of a seat on supersonic travel. I mean, they do believe that this is something that is going to, as you say, help us zip around the planet in the future. And they're using some technology, quite innovative stuff. So it's 3 engines, it's got lots of carbon fibre, and they're using a shark skin inspired material on the belly of the aircraft just to reduce drag. It is significant that they got through the sound barrier now, so that's about just under 750 miles an hour, because that puts unpredictable forces on the aircraft. The air changes around the wing, around the nose, around the tail, and just to get through that is quite a significant moment.
And Thomas, the sound barrier is a thing. It's not, just a kind of marker. It is an actual thing.
100%. It is almost like a wall of air. That as this aircraft speeds up, it is compressing the air. And they're having to push through that if they're going to get to the kind of speeds that they hope that Overture, this commercial jet, would be able to do, which is about 1,300 miles an hour.
Right, wow. And just very briefly in one answer, do we have a timescale when this might? When can I get on a plane to New York?
Well, United Airlines have actually got 15 aircraft on option. They hope to have flights by 2029.
OK. End of the decade. Thomas, thank you very much indeed. Thomas Moore there with that record-breaking prototype of that passenger jet breaking the sound barrier. Let's return to the business news now. And the Prime Minister has told Cabinet colleagues to ditch policies which could stand in the way of economic growth. It comes ahead of a major speech by Rachel Reeves tomorrow morning, setting out plans to grow the economy, which are expected to include support for the expansion of Heathrow Airport. Let's speak to Brian Burns, Head of Personal Finance at Moneybox. Very good afternoon to you, Brian. What's fascinating is that almost everyone, I think everyone recognises that we do have a big growth problem in this country. What are you hoping, expecting to hear from the Chancellor tomorrow?
Thank you for having me. So this government has quite rightly been focused on macroeconomic challenges since they have taken office. There is a huge challenge to get the economy growing. And if we do get it growing, that will create wealth and put more money in everybody's pocket. What I'm personally looking for, hopefully over the course of the next couple of months, is more policies focused on personal finance and things that will help people save, invest, and plan for their own retirement. So one of the specific areas that I'm looking out for tomorrow, the government is currently conducting a pensions review. Phase 1 of that pensions review is focused on how pension funds invest. Phase 2 of that pension review is supposed to be on individual pensions adequacy. Are we all saving enough for our retirement, which we aren't? That phase 2 has been delayed, and I'm very much hoping the Chancellor will announce tomorrow that that is going to go ahead as planned.
But what you're seeing here, Brian, is that, there are macro things the government can do, and we talked about Heathrow there, didn't we? But also you're saying on a personal basis, we should be looking after our finances, which will help the wider economy.
Absolutely. I think the government can help people and incentivize people to save and also to invest more. We need to create more of a culture of investing in the UK. Our participation in retail investing markets compared to other big economies across the world is very, very low. If we can create an environment for individual savers to start investing more, that will help the UK economy, it will help the UK stock market, and it will also help people's individual personal finances.
Brian, just on the macro level, on the UK PLC, if you like, we're going to hear, I think, about Old Trafford in the northwest. We're going to hear about Oxford and Cambridge and that rail link and joined up business there, and about the expansion of airports in and around London. Are you excited about that? Are you excited about the fact that Rachel Reeves is apparently doubling down on growth, or do you fear that actually some of the obstacles to this still remain too great and that business is struggling in this country?
I think I'm certainly excited. I'm certainly excited by the tone the Chancellor has taken, the tone that this government has taken. The Chancellor said in Davos last week that this government has to say yes to more planning and infrastructure projects compared to potentially previous governments. So that is exciting. And as I say, it should lead to more economic growth, which is then wealth creation and more money in everybody's pocket. It does need to be done carefully. And as I say, it needs to be done balanced off with policies and priorities that help people with the money in their own pockets, as well as big macro infrastructure projects.
OK, and just finally, if you had one piece of advice to our viewers this afternoon, something they could start looking at right now to improve their personal finances, what would it be?
I think the first place to start is always your financial goals. It can be quite easy day to day and month to month just to spend our income without thinking exactly what it is that we want our money to do. Once you know what your financial goals are, and maybe that's purchasing a house, saving for retirement, or just building wealth, there are a lot of products out there, some of them government incentivized, like the Lifetime ISA, that help people get onto the property ladder. There's other types of ISAs that help people build wealth, and of course there's pensions, which are heavily incentivized via things like tax relief that help us all plan for our own retirement. So it's two steps. One is working out your financial goals, and then the products that will help you get there.
OK, Brian, thank you for your time. Brian Burns there from Moneybox. Thank you. We're just going to bring you up to date with some breaking news in the last couple of minutes, and that is from the United States. Official confirmation it is going to withdraw from the Paris Climate Change Accords in January, 27th of January next year, 2026. There's been formal notification, if you like, given to the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres that President Trump's decision to quit the Paris Climate Agreement. We knew it was coming, but we've now got an official date that the US will officially withdraw on January 27th, 2026. OK, you're watching Business Live. Coming up in just a couple of minutes, we're going to hear from two gym bosses about why January is such an important month for them and their members. Stay tuned.
I'm Katie Spencer and I'm Sky News' arts and entertainment correspondent.
Maverick here on the red carpet. I'm so excited, Tom Cruise.
Katie Spencer, Sky News in London.
Welcome to the world.
Our new podcast, starting now. It's very exciting. Every week we'll be reporting from the world's trouble spots.
We get to hold those in positions of power accountable, and we get to ask the questions that the audience, the listeners, want to know about.
And that's why it is so important that people tune in, come along for the road, come along for the journey. It'll be fun.
I'm Siobhan Robbins, Sky's Europe correspondent based here in Berlin.
In Sweden, police have seized a lethal stash.
Anyone of any age could say, I'll do that for £1 million and then have to go and shoot someone.
Yes. Sky News, the full story first. I'm Greg Milam and I'm Sky's Chief North of England correspondent.
This is insane. This was a bustling residential area.
I'm Yusra Al-Bagher, Sky's Africa correspondent based in Johannesburg, South Africa.
How difficult is this to police tonight? Off the scale.
I'm Dan Whitehead, Sky News' West of England and Wales correspondent.
Play Sky News.
From the Sky News Centre at 7.
Now that you're up to date, we can go into a bit more detail.
Things can change incredibly quickly.
Taken by surprise.
Have you ever known a moment like this in British politics before? Yes. Cheers.
We'll start with breaking news.
Let's get the latest on the ground.
So, by the end, we'll hopefully all understand what's going on in the world just that little better.
I saw police being forceful, pushing young men and women to the ground as they made almost 100 arrests. Will the cold affect your voters?
Well, we have a lot of tremendous support.
Free, wherever you get your news.
The people here know that worse storms may well be on their way.
I'm Martha Kellner and I'm Sky's US correspondent based here in Los Angeles.
Mandatory evacuation, you must leave!
For many people, Harvey is far from over.
People here believe the water will be this deep for weeks.
I'm Greg Milam and I'm Sky's Chief North of England correspondent.
Are you trying to run me over, Sir Philip?
No, go away.
Look like it, sir. Will you respond to those who made accusations, Sir Philip?
Can you go away?
Sky News, the full story first.
We've got your Sunday mornings covered. From the front page and the sounds of the streets to the voices of the people who make the major calls and big picture politics beyond Westminster. We'll put you at the heart of our story.
I'm ready. Are you?
Join me, Trevor Phillips, Sunday mornings on Sky News.
I just took a shower above the clouds. You know why? Because this is the Emirates A380. Fly Emirates, fly better. Thank you.
Very welcome back. Now, it is that time of the year when many of us are trying to be a little bit healthier, cutting down on the bad stuff and doing a bit more exercise. So for gym owners, it's a chance to boost memberships. But how do you make sure it's not just January and then out? Well, I've been speaking to representatives from two of the UK's biggest gyms. That's Justin Musgrove from Fitness First and Rebecca Passmore from Pure Gym.
January is traditionally our busiest time of the year, and it's very much the busiest time for Pure Gym as well. We've had a strong start to the year. Across all of our different markets, it looks like we're probably going to close January around 350,000 sign-ups. And here specifically within the UK, we've got over 400 gyms. They range from Inverness as our furthest north club right down to Plymouth on the south coast. And we'll see over 10 million visits. So it's brilliant to see people prioritising investment into health and wellness as they've come out of Christmas and into the new year. Specifically, what I'm most pleased about, we opened 44 gyms last year, 13 specifically just before Christmas in December. And January, therefore, is a really important month for the growth of those gyms. And like the rest of the estate, we're seeing some really strong results. So it's great to see people in those communities really prioritising investment into getting active.
And Justin, what about you guys? And I suppose, how do you make these people stick? How do you kind of get people who turn up to the gym in January, very keen after Christmas? How do you make sure they're still there in April, May and August?
Well, you heard the phrase, Darren, that a dog's not just for Christmas. A gym membership's not just for January. So we're very keen to really onboard the members very well, make sure they love what they're doing. And actually, we see our greatest footfall in March. So 8 weeks after they've joined in January, we see the big rush. So no, it's all about the experience and building habits.
It is, but at the same time, the overall sector, it seems, is growing, Justin, isn't it? How sustainable is that, in the sense of you guys, everyone else must work out, you know, there are only so many people in the UK, only a certain number of them will ever go to the gym, but is that number increasing?
It is. I mean, Fitness First is in the premium segment, and the premium and mid-market increased last year by 15%, 447 additional gyms last year. But just look after COVID, Darren, we saw a real surgence in people working out, keeping healthy. And what we're seeing now is Generation Z, millennials, they're completely different to you and I, you know, in terms of how they approach life. Health and well-being is at the top of their agenda. So, listen, this is the golden era for not just gyms, but actually the physical activity sector. So we're really here to embrace that. And no, it's a boom time for the industry, park runs and things like that.
What are you suggesting, Justin? I'm lifting weights every day of the week. I mean, it might be a large glass of wine, but it still feels quite weighty sometimes. Rebecca, I think it's fair to say that Pure Gym is at the kind of more competitive pricing end of the scale when it comes to gyms. How do you set that pricing? Because it's, you know, it has to remain competitive and it's not uniform. It's higher or lower depending on where you are. Isn't that right?
Well, as you say, I think price is absolutely critical at the moment, and it's really important for our proposition. Our proposition is all around providing brilliant, high-quality fitness, but at a really low achievable price. And given the consumer backdrop at the moment, value has never been more important for consumers on their minds. So pricing for us is absolutely critical. We've got to keep the price point low for members such that they can access facilities like ourselves. We do price differently across different markets, and there's a whole host of reasons that go into that. You know, rents are a lot higher in urban locations. The competitive dynamics can also affect pricing. But what is critical in all of those markets is that we absolutely are committed to keeping operating costs low. We absorb unexpected cost increases from the government like we've seen recently. We work very, very hard such that we can keep that price point very competitive and very low for members.
And just on that, Rebecca, we know tax is going to go up. The minimum wage is also going to go up in a couple of months' time. How much pressure is that putting on your business?
Well, I think for all businesses, it's an unexpected cost increase, you know, and we're no different for that. However, we're a low labour cost model, which means the level of impact for us is far lower. We work really, really hard to ensure that we can drive efficiency out of our labour model and overall operating costs through the use of technology, through the use of AI, as you were talking about earlier, and we'll continue to do that. We'll absorb as much as we possibly can such that we don't have to pass on those increases to our consumers.
There you go. That was Justin Musgrove and Rebecca Passmore talking about gyms. I'd love to say I'm going to go to the gym after this programme, but that may well be a lie. But I will be back tomorrow for Business Live at 11:30. That is just after Rachel Reeves gives a keynote speech about the British economy and growth. We will have full reaction to that. Up next, though, it is the News Hour with Mark Austin coming up at 5 o'clock. Stay tuned for that, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.